Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm here with my beautiful wife, Dr. Alicia. How you doing today, babe?
I'm doing well. How are you feeling?
I'm doing really well, really well. And today we were talking about Keyshia Cole, and Keyshia Cole's mother, Frankie, just died from what what her family is saying was a relapse, a drug overdose, and which made me very sad, and it made me think about you because that's an area that you know a lot about.
Yeah, I do. Well, first of all, rest in peace, Keisha Cole's mother. I feel so sorry for this family that's been struggling with as a family member has been struggling with addiction. I'm sure Keisha Cole and this family is very devastated by that. My heart goes out to this family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine too. Mine too. Yeah, yeah. I mean, addiction is terrible. It's real. It's something a lot of our families go through, and definitely my heart goes out to Keisha Cole and her family because this can't be easy. And how many of you? First of all, good morning and be one to everybody who's in the building. We were thinking about you guys because I asked Alicia to do this pillow talk episode where we literally have our head laying against pillows while we talk. This really is pillow talk. And I asked Alicia to talk about it because it seems like there's so many of our families that deal with drugs. So many stories out there.
It's really terrible. I know I used to work at I used to work at John Strozier Hospital, which is
Mm-hmm.
the Cook County Hospital, and it was the saddest day to see, some of the drug users that would come in there. And so I worked with them very on daily basis. And a lot
Mm.
of times the family members would call me in desperation and just say, what am I supposed to do? Especially the mamas. The mamas would call because their babies would be strung out on drugs. And I remember saying, okay, give him the phone. Give your son the phone. Let me talk to him. And I would talk to him on the phone. I'd say, hey, do you have a problem with drugs and alcohol? Yes, I do. And I say, are you interested in getting help? And some of them they would say, no, I'm not interested in getting help. And I'll say, okay, put your mama back on the phone. And I remember telling the mom, I'm sorry, he is not interested in getting help. And then I would just refer her to an Al-Anon group. Do you
Mm.
know what the Al-Anon group is?
I've heard of Al-Anon. I assume it has something to do with rehab.
No, Al-Anon group has to do with family who
Mm.
have a loved one with a substance abuse issue, and the Al-Anon group focuses on how to deal with family members, and the issue is enabling. So how not to enable them. So at that point, when you have, especially an adult who's doing drugs and alcohol, and they're not interested in getting treatment, the best thing to do is just to figure out boundaries. Hmm.
Boundaries. Now we say boundaries. What do you mean by boundaries?
Well, the thing is that you can't enable them to continue to do drugs because drug addicts are really good at lying. They're really
Yeah.
good at manipulating because that's what they've learned to do, because that's what keeps their habit going. So they'll tell you a long, sad story about why they don't have no money and what's going on. And so giving them money and feeding into them is enabling them to continue. The only thing I would focus on is you either go to rehab or you're going to have to unfortunately cut somebody off.
Mm,
It's the saddest thing to see. It's really difficult. And I really hope Keisha Cole doesn't feel responsible for her mother's death. I
mm,
hope that she can look back on it and think that she did the best that she could and not feel guilty. That's what happens. Family members feel guilty, like they're responsible for their loved ones' success and their loved ones' ability to get off drugs. And it's not. The only thing you can do is encourage them to do better, but you definitely don't want to enable them, especially manipulation in terms of money and resources. And don't bring them into your house because sometimes they'll steal things from you. We know how it is. And it's a terrible thing because it is a personal decision to decide that enough is enough and I want to go in rehab. It's like losing weight. You can't force somebody to lose weight.
mm.
Food is an
You
addiction.
couldn't force me to lose weight.
No.
You just encouraged me, and you're right. If I had really not wanted to do it, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and if you weren't ready for that, I mean, it's interesting. I think, boys, you were ready to lose weight because you were already doing some things on your own.
I had hit rock bottom.
Yeah, but you had already purchased a bike. Remember you had that bike you were riding? That
I did.
stationary bike. So you were already ready.
Hmm.
And so I think you attracted me to you because you were ready for that.
Yeah, well, you dated me when I was fat.
You were adorable when I dated you, and you're still adorable now.
Oh, thank you.
But it has to be
You're adorable
something.
too.
Oh, well, thank you. But it was still something that you have to decide that it's time to make a change. And nobody outside, that's the thing. Like nothing and nobody outside of you can make you do anything. It has to come from inside.
Mm. Well, everybody, in case you just came in, we do a segment called Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia, and I think somebody asked, "Is this Dr. Boyce's show or Dr. Alicia's show?" Actually, Pillow Talk is both of our shows. We do this together because we believe in Black family, Black love, and we believe that the core of the B1 community is both our men and our women, and our men and women supporting each other. So I love talking to my wife, and we literally lie against the pillow. And sometimes we do this at night, sometimes in the morning. But she's a full professor of social work. She's a licensed therapist. She also has seen lots of clients in different areas, and I know you teach that class on drug addiction, right? Is it
Substance
what's it?
abuse and treatment. I teach a spring semester.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, substance
Hmm.
abuse and treatment. And I thought about what, and by the way, first of all, actually before I move on, if everybody could take a minute, please hit the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up button. Everybody please do that. That helps our channel grow. Or share. If you're on Facebook or something, if you could share the video, if you're on Twitter, retweet it. And put a hashtag B and the number one in the chat, hashtag B1, to let us know that you're Black first. Black first means that we put our community at the top of the priority list, and our goal is to solve problems. I believe that our scholars, like you and I, we're both
Hmm.
scholars. One of the things that we have to do as scholars is we have to focus on the problems in our community. Use our expertise instead of going and sitting at these big white universities and doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. How about we focus on our people first and prioritize our people as the number one? So put a hashtag B1 in the chat after you either share or subscribe or like or something, because we really need your support, because we need smart people out here, not just the crazy people that they want to put out there in front of us. But anyway, with that said, yeah, I thought about you when I heard about Keyshia Cole's mother, because I thought about how many Black families deal with addiction.
Hmm.
So many of our families, I mean, because you and I've been watching Snowfall,
Oh goodness. Yeah.
and Snowfall just, it pissed me off. It made me so mad to sit there and see the CIA selling billions of dollars of crack or of cocaine in the Black community. And then we saw the scene where, because it's modeled off Freeway Ricky Ross, which is a guy that both you and I both know.
Yes, I
Freeway.
do know
I
Freeway.
had him on my podcast, and this was before we dated. I don't know if y'all noticed, but before Alicia and I even dated each other, she had met Ricky. She knows Rick from he came to speak at your
Yeah, so he
university,
came.
and then you talked to him a lot, like, beyond that. Yeah, tell
Well,
him.
sort of. So he came to my university. We did a social justice symposium and panel. We had a huge thing because that's our focus at the university is social justice. Wonderful program, wonderful criminal and social justice major. And so one of the really great professors, he would be a good one for you to get in contact with. He's like so intelligent. He was actually on crack. Is a professor at St. Francis at my university, and he was actually on crack, and he talks about his story publicly, but he was on crack. He got off crack. He got a PhD, and he's an academic faculty member. And he knew Freeway Ricky Ross because he was from South Central LA. He's from that area, and he's
Mm.
here in this area. He and his wife are phenomenal. Love them, love them. They're not with the university anymore, but they were like fantastic. So anyway, they brought him in, and I got to meet Freeway Ricky Ross. I had dinner with him. I also had dinner with Michelle Alexander.
Oh,
Oh
another
my
great lady.
goodness.
And it's funny that that's
And both
also
of them are from the same
that's another
area.
funny coincidence, because I knew Michelle very well as well. Before we even, you and I did not, we were friends, but we didn't know that we both knew Michelle. We didn't know that we both knew Ricky. But yeah, Michelle and I, we had the same assistant, the same booker for
Oh,
speaking.
really?
Yeah, it was so funny because Michelle, they were reaching out to her like 5 times a week for like these speaking engagements, offering her all
Hmm.
kinds of money. And she's such a good person. Like she was like, no, I want to spend time with my family. Like she was not chasing the money. And so what happened was is Michelle Alexander actually helped me make money because I'm like, I'm not, I don't fit in the mainstream media. White liberals hate me, white conservatives hate me. So I'm kind of in a bad spot. Right. I'm just like 100% black. But what would happen is that whenever the place couldn't get Michelle, somebody would be like, well, did you ever look at Boyce Watkins? And so I would get the scraps. I got Michelle just getting her scraps. I probably made $80,000 to $100,000 just from her scraps, just from the engagement she did not want. This lady, she was so in high demand, and I loved it because at that time, Russell Simmons and I were working on that campaign against, or to get the Obama administration to change their policies on drugs and incarceration, and it was a hard battle. Shout out to Russell actually, because Russell was really being pressured by the White House to back away from that. They were like, don't put this pressure on Barack. He doesn't need to do anything for black people. That was kind of the feeling I had, was that they were like, well, black people just love him. He doesn't have to actually do anything in terms of policy. And we were like, no, if they love you, you need to do something. And I want everybody to know that was a hard fought battle. That and what we did was I wrote the letter. You can go look it up. It's out there online somewhere. I wrote a letter to Barack, and I basically just said, look, drugs and the war on drugs and mass incarceration has obliterated the black community. Like there's so many families affected, and you were elected kind of on a promise on that you were going to help fix some of this. I'd like for you to help keep that promise. Like do what you can. And I had to be really nice and polite, even though I had a lot more I wanted to say. And we wrote this letter, and the plan was I would go get all the scholars to sign. Like I went and got the Michelle Alexanders and the activists and the Jesse Jacksons and people like that.
I signed. You
You
got me to
you that's
sign.
right.
My
You
name
signed.
is on
You
there.
signed. I
That's
forgot.
what's
You
up.
did. You did sign. You did sign because the scholars gave the letter legitimacy in terms of activism and academia and everything. He went and got the celebrities. He got. I mean, everybody from Rick Ross and Lil Wayne to Will and Jada. I think Will and Jada signed. Um, who else? Even the Kardashians signed. Even Justin Bieber. White people signed.
Justin Bieber signed
I don't
it.
even talk to many white people. I don't
Look
hate them
at
or anything.
him.
I just don't talk to them. I talk to black people most of the time. But Russell, he's very well connected. So he got a lot of celebrities. Chris Rock, Jamie Foxx, uh, I think Carrie Hilson, like people like that, right? And so all these celebrities signed this letter. So the White House started getting really nervous. They were like, "Whoa, there's a lot of pressure building up." Because all these celebrities are signing this letter asking Obama and Eric Holder to change their policy on the war on drugs. So as time went on, and this is an important story to tell because I think again, if you're gonna talk about things Russell did that you didn't like, you got to talk about things that he did that are powerful, right? So they didn't put the pressure on me. They tried to put the hammer on me through Al Sharpton because they were like, you got to shut this dude down. And I couldn't be shut down. I was too much of a wild card. I'm not a mainstream guy. I never wanted to be. But Russell he's in the celebrity space. And what one of the tactics that's used by politicians is they buddy up with celebrities. They bring them to the White House Christmas party. They get selfie photos with Barack, and that was how they kept them quiet. That's how they keep them in line, right? Russell did not go for any of that shit. Russell said, there are too many of my friends that are locked up in Rikers, too many people I know in Pelican Bay and all these other prisons, and they've been locked up for 20 or 30 years. I'm not backing down. And Valerie Jarrett specifically put a lot of heat on him. And he was telling me about it. And I said, so what are you going to do? And he said, I don't care. He said, so he stuck to his guns. And let me tell you what happened. So the letter got released. And then you know who set it off? Guess who really popped it off? Y'all won't believe this. It doesn't go out. Can you let me know? Give me a yes if you guys can still hear us. Sometimes when my alarm goes off, it turns off the audio. So I hope that.
Well, shout out to that Canadian Justin Bieber. He
Yeah,
did it,
yeah.
right?
Justin Bieber.
He's so far removed.
Can you guys hear us? Give us a yes in the chat if you can still hear. I want to make sure everybody can hear. But yeah, Justin Bieber literally tweeted the letter. He tweeted the hashtag. It was like in the war on drugs. When he tweeted the hashtag, it became the number 3 most trending, highest trending hashtag um, on Earth. Little Justin Bieber. Oh,
Look at
raggedy ass,
him.
raggedy ass
I'm
boy band. I'm
sorry.
playing. I
He's not
know.
so bad
Well, I
actually.
think he sucks. But then
Some of
again,
his music
you
is
know
pretty
what? I'm
good.
probably just being a hater right now.
You should listen to some of his music. He came out with an album a few years ago.
Hmm.
I mean, he's got the best producers. on his
He probably
music,
got a
and it
bunch of
was really
he's
good.
probably got a bunch of black dudes making all his
It's
music.
they got to be. I mean,
Hmm.
he's don't
Nah,
sleep on Justin Bieber.
I know,
His
I know.
Christmas album is still good.
Well, you know
I
what?
play that
Well, you
every
know what,
year.
Justin. Well, what Justin really is he's the new Elvis Presley.
Okay.
That's what because he's even
Well,
around a lot of black
Elvis
people.
Presley was
Elvis was around a lot of black people. They know where the talent's at. They know where the gold is buried. But anyway, I'm just kidding. Shout out to Justin Bieber because when he tweeted that out, the White House buckled. That was what it took that much work to make them fold, and they actually made at that point they made one of the most significant mass incarceration announcements in the last 30 years. And so that's something I think is because this drug thing it's affected so many people. I'd be curious to ask this question, and I'm gonna be quiet because I said a lot. How many of you have had a relative that's struggled with drugs? How many of you got a parent that dealt with drugs, a child that's on drugs, a spouse that was using drugs? Like people just around you, or maybe you dealt with drugs. Somebody in your family locked up over drugs, selling dope, using dope, killed over dope. Give me a yes in the chat. Shout out their names, because I think that these people need to be memorialized because people don't understand that the war on drugs and the whole crack era, that was a Holocaust for black people. Like that,
hmm
we deserve reparations for that.
hmm
Like that, like people need to take black pain as seriously as we take white pain. Like if this happened to white people, we would understand. Like when white people started using meth and heroin, they made that a national issue, right? So I think for black people, we need to like really acknowledge what we've gone through, and stop just thinking it's supposed to happen to us just because we're black. I'm done talking. Go ahead, babe.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of thoughts, but yeah, I know. Now I'm really happy to see that we have what's called drug court, and we have so that people who are on using drugs and they commit a crime, they don't send them through regular criminal court. They put them through drug court, and I know that's the response because you see a lot of white people white families are dealing with methamphetamines like crazy. And because of that, what came out of that is drug court. They didn't have drug court back in the 80s when people were strung out on crack, but they have it now. I'm glad that we see it now, but the compassion is more there for people who are on drug because back in the 80s, that's how my profession became as a social worker became very popular because as soon as you had a baby and you tested positive for crack, they just took your baby away.
Are you
I mean,
serious?
yes, because they thought that if you used crack cocaine while you were pregnant, that everything was over for your baby. It was endangering the child. And we now know that crack babies, I hate to call them crack babies, but they're perfectly fine. It's a myth that crack babies are going to be somehow deficient in some way, and they're not. They're grown up. They have lived healthy lives. They're intelligent. They're really smart. So all of the there was a lot of misconceptions about crack baby that come to find out none of that was the case, that not only an entire generation was wiped out because of crack cocaine, but they were wiped out because they just swooped those babies away from their mothers and put them
Mm,
into foster care, and that created huge state run foster care programs. And which how is it that we're going to take you away from your family and friends, and I mean your mom and your parents, just because they're on crack? Well, right now what they do is if you and your child test positive, they now put you and your child into a rehab facility. So they
mm,
no longer have that policy where they just wipe the baby away, but that's what they did back in the day. And it was just horrific,
mm,
horrific, because growing up in the system, like Keyshia Cole did,
mm.
growing up
Yeah,
in
well,
the
she
system
well,
is
well,
not the
well,
best.
actually, she was adopted by two people in her family, but she might have been in the system for a while.
Okay, so she was in relative foster care.
Hmm.
That's what it's called. And then
Oh, so she was in the system, but she was with relatives at the same
yeah,
time too.
relative foster
Okay.
care, and then that could lead to adoption, and
Well,
that.
I mean, if you look at what Keisha went through, and I read her whole backstory. She didn't meet her father till 2016. Her mother, Frankie, we know she struggled with drugs. R.I.P. to Frankie. She just passed on her birthday.
On her
And
birthday, yeah.
yeah,
Jeez.
and if you look at her backstory, I mean, you and I were tripping over the fact that Keisha, like the deck was stacked against that poor girl because she was born in 1981 in Oakland, And remember that episode in Snowfall where they literally, I got to check to see how historically accurate this is, but they literally laid it out like Oakland is where crack began. Like that's the genesis
Patient
of
zero.
crack. Yeah, patient like
Person zero is
19
right
yeah,
there.
I mean 1981 in Oakland,
Jeez.
right where crack started. And it's not a coincidence to me that crack started in Oakland because remember that's where the Black Panthers were.
Yes.
You know, what better way to ruin a whole
Yes.
movement and a whole generation than to drop this drug in there that everybody thinks is harmless, that's going to literally turn, a bunch of people into zombies. You gonna tell me that you can't tell you can't convince me in a billion years that wasn't intentional.
But look at Keyshia Cole. She is absolutely beautiful. She is tremendously talented. I'm surprised we don't hear more from her. I would love to hear more music from her and listen to how she sang. Have you ever heard her songs?
I
There's
don't.
so much.
I'm not exactly a Keisha
Oh
Cole
my
music
God, boys.
person.
Her songs, you could tell she had a tough upbringing because it comes out in her music. Like her song, her
And she was
voice,
singing from the gut.
she sings from the gut, and you're just like, oh, and anybody who's been through anything, you listen to her voice and you just like, oh, I can feel it. She is very powerful singer. And and she is very relevant today because even our 14-year-old Nicole,
Hmm.
I heard her singing. She was sitting around singing Keyshia Cole. I said, how do you know about Keyshia Cole? She was like, I love this song. She's educating me on the Keyshia Cole song. I'm like, Nicole, I already know this song. She's like, I love her. So she's not only relevant to me in my generation, she's relevant to the youth now. They love her music. It's made a comeback.
Well, you know what I found? I find that good music is relatable to a lot of people of a lot of backgrounds. Like if you take like the best country songs ever, and
Yeah.
you could play it, at a at a hood club, and
Oh, we'll be jamming
it
to the
was still,
country
yeah, people
song.
would still like it. I mean, because there's something about, I noticed that, like, if you take the best classical song and you play that, like, people are gonna like it if they open their minds and say, I'm gonna get past the
Mhm.
fact that it's classical. Like good music is good music.
Don't sleep on that country music. There's some country songs that I'm like, play that again. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Hmm.
music really is universal. And by the way, if you just came in, we're doing Pillow Talk with Dr. Bush and Dr. Alicia Watkins, and we do Pillow Talk on different issues that exist in the community. We like to give a perspective that's based on um, some thought. We like to sort of think things through, and because we're both scholars, that's what we do. And also, we really love each other. We're big fans of Black love, and we like to kind of talk about issues that relate to our relationships and our families. So make sure you subscribe. And actually, we do have a channel called the Black Love Channel. So if you're into relationships and how to make it work, Alicia actually has a license in that area. That's what she does. She coaches couples all day long and stuff like that. So she knows what she's talking about. All right. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. Let me bring up something real quick, babe.
What you want to bring
I
up?
was looking through the comments and I saw a lot of response when we talked about people having relatives that were dealing with drugs or having struggled with drugs. And for example, Mercedes Thomas says that it looks I guess that's a she. She says, I'm 31 years clean tomorrow.
Oh, bravo to
Everybody
you.
saying congrats, Mercedes. Good job. Everybody applauding Mercedes.
It's a tough road. The sobriety is tough.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
poor
bravo,
Ebony Bailey,
bravo.
that poor child. She says, "Crazy era destroyed my family." There's a
Yeah,
lot of families that were destroyed over drugs. A lot of families.
unfortunately, yeah. And I would have to say, um, I feel kind of unique because I don't know if there's anyone necessarily in my immediate family that was using drugs. However, we were victims. I was talking to you about it before. We were victims. There was someone in our family who was murdered by somebody on drugs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh,
by
you and I
someone
were
on
talking about that the
drugs.
other day.
Yeah, let me tell you, I'm so happy. We were talking about this the other day. Aren't we lucky we don't have moms who were strung out?
Hmm.
Just think how just think how rocky our relationship would be if we had mothers who weren't present with us because they were strung out on drugs.
Mm.
Now, my mom was addicted to cigarettes and nicotine. She had a cigarette addiction that she finally kicked, of course, but
Hmm.
still, I mean, we could actually, that's terrible. We could actually say, God, we were lucky we did not have a mom strung out.
Well, and you grew up in Gary, Indiana, which was the murder capital of the world
It
at that
was the
time.
murder case. I survived Gary.
Yeah, yeah, and
But Gary is a place where if you're looking for trouble, you will find it. But if you're not looking for trouble, you can be sheltered.
mm,
You know.
well, check this out. I know. I mean, drugs hit my family pretty heavy. My biological father, who didn't raise me. I didn't meet him. Kind of like Keyshia Cole. I met him first time when I was 14. Met him again when I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he was in prison for drugs.
Yeah.
I knew somebody who knew somebody who met him in prison and told me that he was locked up for drugs. And then also my father that raised me. Some would call him a stepfather, but he's not my stepfather. He's my
He legally adopted you,
Yeah.
so
Well, he's my father. Even if he hadn't legally adopted me, he's still my father.
okay.
Even without the
But
name of
that's why you have his last
yeah, I don't
name.
care what the government says. That's my daddy. Period.
Well, of
But
course,
yeah,
but
but my
you
daddy,
know,
he says when he came back from Vietnam, he had a heroin addiction.
and he kicked it, didn't he?
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course, he kicked it,
Well, he
cause
chose to walk away. He's a strong man.
yeah.
I like to believe I inherited that strength from him because I
Hmm.
watched him. He taught me, about mind over matter. That's why I'm not really afraid of him. There's very few things that scare me. And I got that from my father. It's like either you're gonna do it or you're not gonna do it.
Well,
So so I want to say, then I'll be quiet. I'm sorry, but I'll say this. But I'll say with my dad. The cool thing about my dad is that um, when I watched, when I think about all the things he gave me, and I imagine what would have happened if the drugs had won his mind.
hmm
All those things he gave me, all those gifts that come out in who I am, wouldn't be there. I'd be a whole different person. But go ahead, man.
no, I was gonna say shout out to your biological father. Shout out to him. May he rest in peace. Like really, because first of all, that's you. That's part of who you are. So that part I love.
Yes, may he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. Shout out to your biological father for having the foresight to give you up because he willingly gave you up to your dad and your mom. Of course, your mom wouldn't give you up to your mom, but he willingly gave you up because he knew that you had a better life with Papa Larry and Mama Robin. Hold on a second. Do not cut me off here. Shout out to him because he knew he had the foresight and the ability to know that you were better off with this nice, stable family. Beautiful family. Shout out to Mama Robin and Papa Larry. I love them dearly because they raised you to be who you are today. But you got the DNA from a fantastic man who had the foresight to know that you were going to be something special. I promise you, he's not here right now, but I'm almost certain that's what he would say.
Well,
And
thank you.
I just want to
I don't.
say
I
I
appreciate
love
it.
hold on, I love all of you all. I love all of you all for you having that experience because you would not be the man you are today. I adore you and I think you are beautiful. I think you are a wonderful man. And I love everything about you boys.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Well, I will say that I appreciate him as well. I don't see it the way you see it. Like I don't see him giving me up as this wonderfully altruistic decision he made against his will. Because I met his other
Not
kid.
against it's
I
not
met
a,
no
hold on a
wait, well
second. It's not
wait,
against
hold
his
on, wait. I'm
will.
gonna jump in though. Me and you gonna have to go back and forth on this because I done met this man's other kids. I had
Mm-hmm.
a long conversation with my siblings and who were in the house with him, and it wasn't the fairy tale that you described. He wasn't a guy that he did not seem like a person they admired immensely.
Okay, but can
So
I say something?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because he wasn't the man at that time because of what he was struggling with because he had struggles. Everybody has struggles. For some reason he knew that he wasn't the man. And you have his name. His name is Boyce, just like yours. And
My dad was gonna change my first name too. He just didn't.
I'm glad he did not because Boyce is the one and only. I don't know anyone else named Boyce other than you. And
There's
you
there's a superintendent of public schools in
hold on a
Arkansas
second.
who's named Boyce Watkins. Did you know
Okay, but whatever. This is not,
that?
no, Boyce, I want you to listen to this. Because his family has said he was difficult to live with, that even more says it was a wonderful thing that he was able to remove you from that element and you were raised by basically a steady environment, basically.
Okay, well, let me just say
Not to
this.
say that there were
Well,
any problems.
let me.
And what I want to do is, I just want to reframe. I
This
want you
is
to
not
hear.
about. This is not a conversation about my dad.
I
This is
know, I
we
know,
we, we
but
gotta get.
we're
We were
talking
talking about,
about drugs.
and let me say this. My brother's in the chat. My
Hey,
biological
shout
brother,
out to
Rieslow Sanders. That's his name. That's
shout out to you,
Ryan. My
brother.
brother Ryan's in the chat,
And
and he.
he's my hold on, he's my brother Ryan too. Shout out to you. Maybe one day we will meet. I haven't met him yet. One day we will
Mhm.
meet. Shout out to you. But how fantastic are you boys? Your intelligence
You're making
probably
a
came
fairy
from
tale
him.
up, babe. I just
Here's
want.
what I'm
I
doing.
everything ain't the fairy tale, sweetie. Look, Ryan is saying that he. Well, I don't. Ryan, you got to explain the comment, but he says he didn't voluntarily leave us, bro. She don't know. So what he's saying is, you don't know, babe. You got to go and.
Who said
How
that?
about this? I'm gonna put you on the phone with Ryan, so Ryan can give you
Did
his.
Ryan say that?
Yeah,
Ryan.
Ryan's basically saying you don't know. Like,
Here's the
and
thing.
that's the thing. Like, we want to make a fantasy that, oh well, he did all these intelligent, thoughtful things because he
Hmm.
just cared so much. When he might have just been cracked out. He might have just been. I don't know about crack. I'm not saying that specifically. I'm just saying he might have just been a knucklehead. Like, there's a lot of people in our families that are just knuckleheads that do dumb shit. And we and I'm not trying to say. And the thing is, I don't believe in rewriting the story. I believe
Okay,
in
I
saying
do believe in
I believe in
rewriting.
us figuring out how to do better.
Okay, can I say something, please, boys?
Yeah, go ahead.
I do believe in rewriting your story. I do believe in the subconscious mind. I do believe that you can make a story work for you however you want to work for it. Your imagination is your power, and that's your magic, boys. So you rewrite the story. You take a story that's tragic, like what happened to you and why you were adopted by your stepfather who raised you. Rewrite that story, boys, and turn it into the fairy tale. And it's called reframing in therapy
I don't need.
language. Hold on. In
I
therapy
I
language, it's called
I
reframing. But
I
I
don't
am
need.
wanting, hold
I
on.
don't need a fairy tale in order to get through the day. Now, let me tell you. Look, Ryan made another comment. He grew up in the house with my dad, so he knows more than either one of us. So I think he needs to be heard. Do you agree?
He does need to be
Do you
heard.
wait? Do you agree? I'm gonna read. Can I read his comment?
Okay, read
I'm
his
gonna put it on the
comment.
screen. Here's what Ryan, my brother, who lived in the house with my biological father, said. Now you can talk to Ryan because I want you to kind of, because remember, just like we might need to reframe. Maybe you got to reframe too. He says this. He says he was fucked up, running the streets, dealing and using. So the streets kept him away from all of us.
Yes.
That came from his son
Okay.
that was in the house with him.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
Because he knew he was fucked up, running the streets, using drugs. He knew he could not raise you. And that's why he gave you away. So what Ryan is saying is not contradictory to the story that I'm telling you about. So because of that, because he's like, you know what, I can't raise my first son. I can't raise my first son to be
Or his
right.
second.
Or you were his
Or
first.
his daughter.
Hold on a second. You were his first. You are Boyce. You are Boyce the man. And as an
No,
infant,
but my
you
bro,
are special as an
but
infant.
my brother's important too. My brother,
Okay,
like we all matter.
everybody matters. Everybody knows that. But I'm talking about you right now.
Hmm.
I'm talking about how special you are. Because listen, while Keyshia Cole's and all of the tragic things that happened to her when she was young, losing her mom to drugs, not knowing her father and reconnecting with him, and who knows what other type of trauma Keyshia Cole's encountered. Out of that came a beautiful, talented, wonderful young lady who she's now a mother. And I'm certain, I think she had a reality show or whatever, but she's a fantastic mother and she's doing it for
Sharon
herself.
Sharon
I
said you
love her.
Sharon said you sounding crazy.
Well, whatever. It resonates with a lot of people. And I think out of the tragic of what crack cocaine did for us is also some success stories.
Well, I think
It
you
didn't
what
work. Here it
one
is.
area where.
Suppose
Well, hold on,
CIA.
wait. You talked a lot. Now let me talk.
Okay, I have another comment
Right,
too.
you can make your comment, but I'm gonna say
Mhm.
this: as far as I want to put the topic of my father to bed because we were talking about Keyshia Cole and her family. I want to talk about
Mhm.
that, but I will say I can agree with you that I thank him for giving birth to me,
Yes.
and that's it. That's
Yeah.
that's where I get off the. Ain't I'm not and this whole idea that because I was messed up, I did the wise thing by giving you away. I'm just old school with it. I'm looking at black folks saying don't give your goddamn kids away. Like, don't, no, I don't care how messed up your life is or how hard things are. You need to step up, take care of them. I mean, those kids are looking up to you. They need you,
Okay,
you
I
know. So
totally.
that's
Mhm.
where I'm at. But
I
go ahead.
totally 100% agree with you, boys. I totally 100% agree with you. But there must have been something where he says, I can't do right by this. And so I think that it's really selfless, because a lot of people could, like me, I'm not I am not courageous enough to give any of my children up because I'm selfish. I only think about myself, but if there was ever a situation where I'm down and out, and there's a situation where I feel like my child could do better by being in another environment, much, much better, it would be a very difficult decision to make. I'm saying that as a social worker, I have dealt with adoptions. I have dealt with mothers at Cook County Hospital who have given up their children for adoption because they know that they don't have a good life, and they know that there's a beautiful family who's willing to adopt, their baby. And I've been there during that interchange, boys, because a mom has 72 hours to change her mind, no question. And I have been with mothers who've made that very hard decision to give their baby up for adoption because their life is not looking right. And they had to give, and they see that there's a beautiful family willing to take them in, and they know that their child will have a better life. It is an awful decision to make. And anybody in here who's adopted, who has been adopted, just know that your birth mother had a lot to deal with, because I've seen it.
Okay.
The tears and the anguish and the nervousness of the adoptive family who has 72 hours, knowing that those 72 hours you can change your mind at any time. It is
Okay.
really a remarkable
Okay, that's
experience.
a great point you made. So
Hmm.
I'll say that I get that. I totally get that. Right. If you refuse to improve who you are,
It's tough. Yeah.
right, or you can't, or you don't believe you can do it,
Yeah.
maybe your children are better off. But I'm also the guy who says, when you look at a tragedy like poor Keisha, God knows what that girl went through because her
Yes.
parents didn't step up to the plate. I think that's where the strength of the community comes into play. Remember, crack infiltrated the black community in a way that it did not really infiltrate the Jewish community or the Asian community. Now, part of this is due to targeting for sure, but also part of it may be due to, um, the question of, do you have a family that's strong enough to force you to do better, to become a better person? There are a lot of families where no, that ain't gonna happen in our family. You're not gonna just give up and say, well, because I just choose to keep going out and running the streets and doing God knows what, I'm gonna give my baby away because that's gonna make me a good person because I did the right thing. No, there's some families that are like, no, you don't change who possesses your children. You need to change who possesses you, like your actions. You need to change you.
Well, I don't
You
think
need to
it's
step up.
I don't think it's for us to judge people who have to make that difficult decision. We just have to know that it was a difficult decision. I'm not here to judge anybody for giving someone up, or for deciding to stick through it, or for making the choice to get off of drugs, or for not making that choice. It's not my place, I don't feel, to be judgmental. I'm saying that whatever those decisions that people have to make, it's a tough decision, and that people basically were doing the best that they can. So that's
I,
that's that's the position
I
I
do
take
I
as a
do agree with that.
therapist.
I do and I can hear
Hmm.
that, and that makes perfect sense. And I think for me it just bothers me.
Hmm.
When I think about Keisha Cole, I see a damaged child, right? And also I read her whole bio up and down, and they said that her parents didn't really reconnect with her until she became famous.
Okay.
She connected with her dad in 2016, and her mother, I think a few years before that, and it's just kind of one of those things where it kind of, it's just kind of unfortunate. This was one of those things where I think that even though we may not call it judgment, but I think expecting people to meet a standard is is important too, right? Like to say, like, yeah, I'm not gonna judge you. It's like with your kids, when sometimes our kids, they don't want to clean up the kitchen because they're tired and they just don't feel like doing it. And you give them space, you give them leeway, or
Well,
whatever.
there's
Because
consequences for
right.
that.
I get that. I
Hmm.
get that. Right. And that's what I mean. Consequences, right?
Yes.
Because you expect them to meet the standard. So here's my point. Right. So I think that for parents, I want to ask everybody in here, what's the consequences for a father who doesn't take care of his kids? Some of y'all got deadbeat men in your family who making babies, ain't take care of none of them. Go make another one. What's the consequence? What's the community doing to put pressure on him to say, you can't come to the family barbecue? We will not associate with you because you abandon your kids. We will not sign off on anything that you're doing. You run around here with these random hoes, but you ain't taking care of your own children. Where's the consequences? I don't see consequences, and that's my point. I'm saying that sometimes, I'm with it. I told it. You know what I love about you is because you're a social worker, you bring out the empathetic side of me. You help me see another perspective. But I'm also a person that says, where's the goddamn standard? Like, at what point do we say, no, I'm not going to sit and feel sorry for you as you keep making one bad choice after another? Get your butt in rehab so you can be there for your kids.
How's that different from what I said?
Well,
That's not different.
so there you go. So there we go. That's where we can
That's
find our
not
common
different
ground.
from what I said.
Let's find our common ground there because we both agree
Yeah.
that rehab matters. And I just think, and I know with my dad, he had a choice. My dad could have, the father that raised me could have easily leaned on his heroin addiction and said, because I was so messed up on heroin, I just abandoned my family because they're better off without me. And the answer to that is no. We wouldn't have been happy having a drug addict in the house, but we were very happy having a real man in the house, a man who met a standard. So no, we wouldn't have been better off if he had just said, "Well, I just knew they'd be better off without me because I couldn't turn away from that heroin." No, he chose to turn away from the heroin. He said, "I'm gonna do whatever it takes because you can get off these drugs. They got rehab out here."
They got plenty of rehab.
Right.
It's your choice.
Right.
And that's the thing. I think what you wanted to talk about was Keyshia Cole in terms of her having a mother who's strung out on drugs and how difficult um, those decisions are that she probably made or did not feel like she made in terms of her mother's sobriety. And it was probably tough. And my thing for her is not to feel guilty. Keyshia Cole, do not feel guilty. Please know that your mother made that decision on her own. She made that decision on her own to make those choices. Everybody has choices, and unfortunately, the consequences for the choices of Keyshia Cole's mother led to death, and that is what can happen. And when I talk to substance abuse users in the hospital, I would tell them, I'd be like, your next time could be your last time, especially heroin. I'm like talking to people like, hey, heroin can stop your heart. You could take heroin and go to sleep and sleep your way on out of this world. So heroin can actually stop your heart. It's a very addictive, very awful drug, and you have to shoot it up, and it looks terrible. And I offer people treatment. I say, we could discharge you and send you right to a treatment facility. And the choice is yours. Do you want to go to the treatment facility, or we can discharge you to the street? It's up to them to make that decision.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I personally think that when you're talking about, this stuff with Keyshia, it's funny you said everybody's got choices.
They do have choices,
which is an E40 song that we came out to in our wedding.
Yes,
and E40, and it's funny. E40's from Oakland.
Uh-huh.
Right? Isn't that where Keyshia Cole's from? How ironic
It's
is that?
let me tell you, good talent out of Oakland.
Oakland is a special place. Oakland is
I want to go there and get a little bit of that talent.
It's
I
one
want
of my
Oakland
top 3 or
talent.
4 cities in the world. Because my favorite cities that I've given speeches in are Brooklyn, Oakland, Houston, London. Those are 4 cities that I really love.
Whoa! Shout out to Brooklyn. Talk about talent. That's where hip hop music began.
Just
in
smart black people. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you were talking. I didn't mean to talk over you.
I know I talked over you. My apologies, babe.
I just was saying shout out to Brooklyn because that's another magical place where great music came from.
Magically Me is correct, and she says E40 is from Vallejo, not Oakland. But
Vallejo, what is that?
The Bay Area.
Oh goodness.
Of the gay area.
It's all kind of that area.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. It's sad, and my heart goes out, to Keyshia and her family. And a lot of people don't know this. Keyshia Cole was mentored by Tupac, and Tupac told her that he wanted her to write hooks on some of his songs, and that was the day he died. He died the same day he said to her, I guess, called her and told her, I want you to write some hooks on my songs. And then she died. Then he dies. Yeah. And she also performed with Tony. and her career got started with MC Hammer. She met MC Hammer. So this is Bay Area, Bay Area, Bay Area. It's like all that talent in the Bay, and I think that's kind of cool.
We don't really talk much about MC Hammer.
Well, you know what,
But he was
MC
he
Hammer.
was my favorite
Well,
artist.
the interesting. Well, no, he was
I'm
not.
gonna admit
He was not my favorite
I
artist.
had
But
to have been in the second or third grade. He was my
oh,
favorite
okay. Well,
artist.
if you're in elementary
I
school,
was
then,
in elementary
then that's
school.
okay. I don't know. Well, wait a minute.
I didn't know any better.
No, you weren't.
How
Not in
old
the
was
early '90s.
wait,
The '90s, you were a teenager.
MC Hammer? No,
You were
maybe
too. You were
seventh,
too
eighth grade.
grown for MC Hammer to be your favorite artist.
He was.
Well, you know what, Hammer. Actually, I ain't gonna lie. I like some of Hammer's songs. And what's funny about Hammer is you would hear these weird stories about Hammer, where there were people who were like, "No, Hammer's a gangster. Like he'll get people. He will get you killed if you mess with him." And I'm like, "What?" And this is some interesting stories about Hammer. And then now he's like a tech entrepreneur or something.
I see him on commercials.
Really? What commercial do you see Hammer on?
I can't remember the name. Oh, it's awful. Is it like a potato chip commercial? Is it
Oh.
Doritos or something? Oh, it's so sad to see him
Well, I
doing
don't.
that.
Well, then again, we don't know where he's at. Maybe he's doing
I
well.
saw him do a potato. I want to say he did like a mainstream commercial.
Well, you know what? Let me just say, as unpopular as it might be to say, I thought Hammer was talented. He was a great dancer.
The parachute pants. Come on, boys.
Too legit to quit.
What?
And remember, pumps in a bump, pumps in a bump.
Yeah,
We
come
like the
on.
girls with the pumps in a bump. He can put it together. And then but my favorite, you know who my favorite Bay Area artist is, right?
What is that? It's not Spice One, is it?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Yes, Spice One is my favorite Bay Area artist. Most talented, one of the most talented poets in all of hip hop.
You know, I remember way before we started dating, you would come to Chicago and visit me, and I would have to listen to Bay Area music the whole entire time.
Well, that's because
you
the
don't
talent,
remember that you would go and buy a CD because no, not a CD, a cassette tape or something, and I would have to listen to that in my car while we drove around Chicago.
Yeah,
and I remember thinking, "Oh my goodness!" And it would be super loud in the car. I totally
know what? The Bay Area artists, there's nothing like them anywhere on the planet.
No, you're
there's
correct about
nothing
that.
Like that. Like there's something about how they can just pull together the beats and the lyrics, and sometimes it'll almost sound goofy, but it's not goofy, but it's great. Like you enjoy hearing it. And to this day, and Sugar T, E40's sister, was on the podcast about a month ago. But shout out to Sugar T, very smart Black woman, entrepreneur, really doing amazing things. Y'all remember Sugar T from Sprinkle Me Girl? Ooh, 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 I'm ooh. Remember that? Anyway, but Sugar T was on, and it just made me reflect on just how much talent there is there. Like it's almost like there's something special in the water in the Bay Area that's not anywhere else. And to know that Keyshia Cole comes out of that is not a surprise that she's so talented. She's just a continuation of that powerful legacy.
I want to hear more music from her. I want her to take this pain and this loss and put it into a good therapeutic song and have us all hear it because it's going to help the world.
Yeah. But you know, yeah, I mean, I think that Keyshia Cole's struggle and her mother's struggle and their story, the sad thing about their story to me, especially as we're watching Snowfall, is that this story has happened a million times in the Black community. There's like probably a million people who could tell the exact same story. I saw one sister in here who mentioned how drugs ruined her whole entire family. And there's a lot of families that got ruined by drugs. Like I told you about the family in Chicago that I worked with to help get the dad out of jail. And he sold a lot of cocaine, and they got him on a RICO charge. And a RICO charge, in case people don't know, means that you and all your known associates can go to prison. That means anybody who even did one little thing for you can go to jail. You know, so they locked up him, his brother. They gave his brother 20 years. They locked up his sister, and they locked up his mother. And so the whole family was like gone to prison. So it's like, if you think about it, right? Drugs can turn your whole family into addicts. Drugs could get your whole family killed. Drugs could get your whole family sent to prison. And then the survivors are all traumatized because we watched all these people go down. You know,
we're very important people in our life who should have had a hand in raising us and making sure that we're okay. They were missing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it broke up the family. I mean, what more of a protection do you have with your family? And if you don't have a family, you're out there on your own.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
sad. It's really sad. In fact, the Wall Street Trapper, he's a friend of mine, a good buddy. I love that guy a lot. He talks about how he was homeless at 13, and he did time in prison. And
Uh-huh.
again, it's like drugs, drugs, drugs. Just kind of all over the place. And I just think it's kind of sad.
And
But
it's a healing that needs to take place, because how are you going to grow up and get married and have children and do some of the things correctly? How are you going to correct some of those wrongs when you grew up thinking, I can't trust anybody? If you can't
mm,
trust anybody, you can't get married. Marriage takes so much trust.
yes, it
I think
does.
about Keisha
Ooh,
Cole's tumultuous relationships that she's had.
yeah.
I can't even imagine how she probably was triggered by some of the things that she experienced herself,
Hmm.
and the impact that that has on making a crazy, chaotic family situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if your partner went through the same thing.
Your partner went through the same thing. So here we got two trauma triggered people. And that makes good TV, by the way.
Yeah, that's why those
It
reality.
makes really
That's
good
why they
TV.
make all those reality shows with these dysfunctional black relationships. And if you watch those shows carefully, I want y'all to pay attention. Pay attention to how many of those people on those shows have a tragic story about their parents being on
Mm-hmm.
drugs or being locked up, in prison. Like the drugs are everywhere, and I think that's interesting. So to some extent, it's like white people still profit on black pain and black
Oh,
trauma.
big time. Big time. Lifetime and Bravo have made a killing. Oh, and the OWN network, the
Mm.
Oprah Winfrey Network, they make a big killing. Ivana, Change My Life, Fix My Life, or whatever that show.
Yeah, Ayana Van Zandt.
Ayana Van Zandt. I can't get it.
Hmm.
Can't get her name correctly. But those shows big time profit off of our tragic, ghetto, trifling stories that we have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When they put that cocaine in the black
And it's
community, they messed it
cringy.
up.
Have you seen these stories, boy? You got to see
You talking
this
about
with us.
we talking about Fix My Life? Or you talking about
All of those
Love and
shows
Hip
is
Hop?
very cringy, but I watch them. I watch a lot of them just because I'm thinking, wow, if they were in my office, what would I say to them? But
Yeah. Well, I personally just believe everybody needs therapy. I think being black, you deserve combat pay for trying to be black in America, dealing with some of the nonsense. And so, I make a suggestion to everybody. Get help. Self help is the key to kind of help overcome all your own BS. And and people like you do that
yeah,
sort
and
of thing. So I
I'm
respect
finding
that.
that people just need someone to talk to who's going to be a good listening ear, and someone who's not going to judge them. And I think that's why I brought that up, real important, about the judgmental. Like, we can't
Hmm.
be judgmental. There are a lot of people out there on YouTube who just sit there and build their whole channel on judging people,
And
and,
attacking
and
them.
attacking them and criticizing them, especially in relationship to relationships and marriage and couples and all of that. They just want to judge people and blame black women and blame black men. Like, no one can be the problem. Let's deconstruct some of this. It's not just one
Mhm.
person. It's the system, of course, that you brought out. It's your background, my background. It's all of those things together. We should not be judging people. We need to be more healing happening.
Right on, right on.
And I
So
hope to crack a dent in some of that, make a dent, make an impact in that way. But it's an uphill battle, boys.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
trying.
guess it starts with love. Like just trying to love each other and loving our community
And
enough to do
acceptance.
the hard work.
Hmm.
To do the work necessary to figure our way out through this mess. But
Well, if you do it with hatred, and you do it with hatred and contempt and criticism, if you do it in that sort of way, you're just re-traumatizing us. I'm re-traumatized by some of the things that I'm seeing. Where if you did it by, well, first of all, love, love and peace is not sensational.
yeah, it's not.
Hmm.
It's not. I agree.
Drama is sensational.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They only want to traumatize people on TV.
Somebody
They
yelling
like
and
that. Yeah,
screaming,
yeah. Triggering each other, and
calling each other's
that's why
names.
these Real Housewives shows are very popular, and Love and Hip Hop and all this stuff.
I like Real Housewives, by the way.
Yeah, I know
I'm
you do.
watching the Real Housewives of Potomac is back
If you
on.
act like any of those women, I love you so much. I think you're gorgeous, but I never would have married you if you were like those women.
They are. I can't, like. It's just interesting how they live their
There's
lives.
nothing appealing to me about women who like to fight and scream and throw glasses across the table at each other. And
Oh, they come at each other,
yeah,
boy.
I'm not a fan of any of that. I like classy women. So shout out to all the classy black women that are in the building. Classy women are the ones that matter. All right. So well, not that the others don't matter. I just wouldn't.
Everybody matters, boys.
Everybody matters. You're right. I'm sorry, but I will say that classy women are the ones that are better to have in your life, in my view. So anyway, guys, we're gonna bounce out. And if you actually want to follow Alicia on Instagram or check out her website as well, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. Alicia is a full professor of social work, which is a very high ranking position. She's nationally recognized in her field. And also she's a licensed therapist. She sees lots of clients. And in addition to that, she actually was the first faculty member in the history of her university to win a Fulbright fellowship, and we went to Guyana, and that was quite an adventure. So if you want to know more about the stuff she's doing, feel free to go to coachingwithdralicia.com or at coachingwithdralicia on Instagram. So everybody, please have a great day. Please hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button before you go. This is Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia. We will be back soon, so make sure you subscribe and have a great day. Love you guys. See you soon. Peace.